All right, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to another Uper Farmer Cigar Garage Talk. I hope everyone's doing well. Personally, I'm in a lot of pain. My wife decided to do some flooring, refloor part of our house, and I kind of sort of threw my back out, threw my leg out. It might even have a pinched nerve in my leg. Kind of fun. So I swear I didn't do that to get out of work. I'm actually kind of happy to get this flooring done. My wife has been wanting to get it done for a while. She has a lot of allergies. There's probably something in the carpet. Previous owners of our house were not the most diligent, shall we say, with vacuuming and cleaning, and they smoked like chimneys indoors. So, yeah, there's a lot of crap in that carpet. Tonight, I am smoking a mystery cigar, Barber Pole. I ordered, came with a sample pack that I had ordered, actually from American Viking. No brand, really, no band on it, no information on what type it is. Tasty, though. Good cigar. Longer cigar, bit of like almost a little shorter than a Churchill. Yep, got good flavor. And again, like I've talked about in other episodes, it's that nice barber pole that I really do appreciate with cigars. So I think I'll enjoy that tonight. And we have Fistmas to drink. Well, again, I'll wrapped up in my cords. Fistmas from Revolution Brewing out of Chicago. It's a Chicago beer. It's nowhere near Christmas, just so you know. I know I'm kind of getting ahead of some of my recording schedules. But it's nowhere near Christmas. This beer was on sale. So I decided, well, it's kind of got a bizarre name. Never heard of the brand. Not sure if I'm like a Chicago brew. But I do like me a good deal. So picked it up. It says it has ginger and orange peel. It's a red ale. I can confirm that. Nice red ale. Actually got a pretty good head on there. So good job, guys. Oh, that's an IPA too. That is hoppy. I don't know where the orange or the ginger comes in. I do know I just got punched in the throat by some hops, so I think I overpaid on the beer, even though it was on sale. So for tonight's topic, going to kind of touch on a little bit what I talked about in the last one, which is what happens when someone in EMS dies. Again, it's reminiscent. I've been around again a lot of death in my career and in my life. Talking about people who've passed, catching up with some of those responders and whatnot from the ambulance corps. Really does kind of bring up an interesting topic I wanted to talk about, which is the value of life, of a human life. Very applicable to the times. It's a question we're asking each other in ways I don't think we ever thought we would. Now, I've spent countless hours contemplating the value of a human life, contemplating my own life, and my own value I place on my life. Now, I can truthfully say that I do value my life, but I have proven time and time again I'm willing to put my life or lay down my life for others. And it becomes this interesting thought experiment. What is one life worth? Now, one of the reasons I stay in EMS and stay as a public responder and a first responder and all that good stuff is I would have no problem ending someone's life or having them put their own life to sacrifice their own life for my family. And I do firmly believe if I'm to ask that of someone else, I probably should be prepared to do it myself. If it's something I've actually lived. I have many occasions put my life in extreme risk to help a complete stranger. And then I got in my ambulance accidents. And I went to go work for a mine where they talked about safety. And there was this bizarre realization that happened. They talked about, one of the examples they gave is welders shouldn't get burnt. Interesting. I've known a lot of welders in my life. They'll tell you getting burnt, it's just part of the job. It's to be expected. But they said welders should not expect to get burnt. After talking to the safety instructor a little bit, telling him I was a paramedic, and what he was saying really wasn't kind of jiving because it was expected for me to kind of risk and lay down my life. And he said, why? Why is that expected of you? It's not expected of any other profession. We don't tell secretaries, well, it's expected you're going to get carpal tunnel syndrome, so we're not going to pay for your surgery. No, they'll pay for that to fix a secretary's carpal tunnel. From typing on her job, they give her ergonomical keyboards and special chairs and mouse pads to almost get rid of the possibility. But yet, public servants are expected. So that kind of got me. I mean, I'd thought about the value of a human life before, but that really got me thinking about it. What is one human life worth? I was teaching some other EMS providers how to teaching on teaching, very meta. I brought up the example, okay, we're all paramedics, EMTs, advanced EMTs, AMTs, EMTs. Let's go through a little thing here. Let's say there is a baby inside a house on fire. And you know if you send in 3 guys, only one's coming out with the baby. Is it worth that child's life? Worth 2 people? And no doubt, they, of course, oh, yes, of course, that baby's life is precious. It's more than worth 2 people's lives. Okay, I've been there. I've risked my life to save a child, a baby specifically. A couple times I've went and risked my life to save kids. I can respect that. Okay, now, let's say that same baby, but you have a magic ball, 8-ball, or a crystal ball. You're able to see in the future, and you know that kid will become the next Hitler and will kill millions of people. Is that child's life still worth 2 people? Well, of course, as you'd probably expect, there was a momentary pause as people thought about it, looked at it, examined the conscience. We did have a fair number of people actually who said yes. Okay, I'm going to press you on that. How so? This person is going to grow up to be an evil individual. And of course they'll counter that, you don't know that for sure. It's, not guaranteed to happen. It's just a possibly might happen. Well, that's true. I'll give you that. Many people change their vote. Nope, a kid's life isn't worth the lives of 2 firefighters, 2 paramedics going in to save them. And you have a handful, of course, who will think a little deeper into the thought experiment and go, of course. One, I'm not going to know that. Even if I do have a crystal ball, it's not set in stone. But in reality, I'm not going to know that kid is going to end up being someone evil. Okay, very good. So I switched the experiment up a little bit. All right. Another building's on fire. There is a 63-year-old convicted murderer in the burning building this time. Murdered many people throughout his life. Is his life worth the 2 firefighters that are going to go in that will die saving him? And a lot of people will instantly see this is a very uncomfortable conversation. They don't want to have it, and will clam up when asked that. You'll have a few more who definitely say, oh, no, absolutely not. If he's killed people, he's not worth saving. But then you'll still have others who say, well, of course, I saved the baby. Every life is worth the same. So I would, of course, sacrifice 2 firefighters to save that murderer. Okay. And again, in that class, I had a forward-thinking individual who, again, wanted to counter. He didn't want to play along and said, well, I wouldn't know if he was a convicted murderer. All right, true enough, you wouldn't. But, of course, then I'd change it up and say, well, yeah, he was a convicted murderer, but it turns out he had a psychiatric condition, he had a brain tumor that was since removed, and now he's dedicating his life to finding a cure for, I think I used AIDS, maybe it was cancer at the time. And if he just gets 1 more week, he'll find the cure. Do you risk your life now? And at that point, people's minds are pretty well blown up, and they're having so much inner conflict and inner turmoil that we have some good riveting discussions then at that point. We talk about what your life is worth, what someone else's life is worth. We bring in morals and ethics, talk about the utilitarianisms and some of the other morale and ethical models out there. Oh, excuse me. And have a really good discussion about what a life is worth. And it's interesting, it's fun, because in truth, the one gentleman is correct. We'll never know that information going in. So practically, in a practical aspect, it's not really worth the heartache and headache of trying to really dive deep into your soul and figure out what you would do in those situations. But then 2020 happened. And that is being played out on a grand scale right now. Start with essential workers. I believe the Mike Rowe example, all work is essential work. But we started shutting down businesses and companies and making people stay home. And only having a handful of essential, quote-unquote, people go out and do their jobs. Well, right there, we said one life is worth more than another. There is one group of people who are allowed to make a living, while another aren't. Just based on who they are and what they do. Their jobs are what usually defines a lot of people. They're defined by their work. And we're telling them, you know what? You're not essential. You're not important. Interesting. So it is playing out. We then have governments who say they'll do anything to save one life. One life is worth people being poor, becoming suicidal, or having domestic issues. So if we can save one 63-year-old plus person, 65 I guess is what they kind of cut that at, plus year old person, well, by golly, all the suffering we put you through is worth it. Interesting. Interesting that it's actually playing out on more of a grand scale. We are picking and choosing winners and losers. And it's something we as a people are not used to anymore. doing that, picking winners and losers, who would live, who would die. That's something we used to do a lot of. Women and children first. Men to sacrifice themselves on the ship. We'd put the women and children in the lifeboats. Over in Europe, they had pecking orders. Who would go into the bomb shelters first? Who was allowed to flee to the countryside? Who was not? We understood the value of a life a lot more back in those days when it was more precious, it was more sacred. But even though we say we do, as long as we save one life, it's worth it. Well, is it? Is it really worth it? We don't understand what a life is worth. We're so easily able to destroy life, whether that's in utero or through capital punishment. We really don't have a respect for life. We don't know what it's honestly worth because we even question what life really is. We can keep people alive long after they should have expired. There was about 6 years ago, there was the 12-year-old girl who was going to have some dental work done. And the dentist lost track of her, and she went apneic, stopped breathing, got brain damage. All tests indicated that she was dead. But the family swore she was still alive because machines and drugs were keeping her alive. So the family, the state, and many representatives did everything they could in their power to keep those machinery going. They couldn't just let her go. Now, I'm not saying that's an easy decision, of course. I'm more looking at that value of a human life. It's something we as a society really need to work to understand. Because we have a hard time with that. We'll do anything to save one life. But then support abortion where you're killing a life. We'll come in and say, we'll do anything to save one life. And then set up a bunch of people for situations where they're going to be suicidal. They're going to experience violence and other problems because they don't have a job to do. It's just an interesting thought experiment, the value of one life, of one person. What gives someone more value? If someone is a saint, extremely religious, someone who is a genuinely good person, should their life be worth more? Well, that's interesting to bring in some religion into the discussion because we have an example of an individual who was extremely holy. Jesus, of course, is who I'm talking about. But yet, it was his sacrifice, his death, that was able to give us salvation. Even though by any metrics of measure, his life would definitely be worth more than anyone on earth. So this is one of those thought experiments that's specifically designed to drive you crazy. Something that you shouldn't dive into on a constant basis. I do recommend, of course, a good beer, maybe a cigar, some good company to contemplate this with. It's an uncomfortable conversation to have. We have to talk about death, people dying, value of a human life, what we'd be willing to do for others. That's hard to do. That's expecting a lot of us. We find ourselves not wanting to have these uncomfortable conversations, but we need to start having them. This is stuff that will give us huge insight on us, on society, will allow us to really dive deep into what it is to be a human. But it is hard. It's hard to have these conversations, to make the realization that, yeah, there are some lives that aren't worth that much. For yourself to even think, man, no, truthfully, I wouldn't save them. I wouldn't save that individual. I have had people in the past tell me I wouldn't save the kid. The safety instructor who taught me at the mine said no. He said that he wouldn't send someone in to die for a child. Because for him, all life, the murderer, the child, the paramedic, the firefighter, they all have equal value. And to have one lose the life or two lose their life to save one, the equation just doesn't equal out. Now, I don't know if he's being honest and truthful, of course. He might have just been saying that to prove a point with the class and with us and everything else to prove that safety is number one. Of course, like I said, I do believe in laying down my life and sacrificing myself for others. I don't really put a stop on that. I did risk my life to save murderers, actually, when I worked around the prisoners. So, I'll kind of leave you with that. A little deeper episode tonight, talking a little more existential, a little bit more abstract, give you something to think about with no real answers. The best type of intellectual, philosophical discussions to have. But what is your life worth? Who are you willing to lay your life down for? But more importantly, who are you not willing to lay your life down for? Who are you value above yourself? Who do you value under yourself? Intense questions. Ones we could spend all eternity contemplating and still not have the answer. So hopefully you do find yourself with a good cigar, good beer, to kind of think about this. Don't dwell on it long, of course, because it'll chew you up and spit you out and have no remorse for you. But it's something we should have an understanding of, or at least contemplate. It'll help maybe regulate some of our decisions. Maybe allow us to really deeper dive into what's important to us. If you're willing to give your life for something, that's got to be important, right? Or if you're willing to give your life for everything, maybe you need to reevaluate your respect in your life, what you think of yourself, because there might be something you're not being truthful with yourself about, something to look into. Anyhow, I'm going to keep this one a little bit shorter than the rest because, again, deeper dive, and I kind of give you some homework to think about death and think about life, what it's worth, what it's not. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Hope you stay safe, and we will talk to you later.